I'm Amber at Amber Plays Sims on most platforms, and welcome to another speed build. So in my last video I talked about the council estate build that I've been working on and how it's just going to take so many videos because I've got 25 hours of footage, so it's going to be lots and lots of videos. I'm decided, yep, that's what I'm going to do with it. I'm just going to cut it down into lots and lots of videos, and if you want to watch the whole thing, it will just be a long process and you'll have to watch lots of individual videos. There's not really another way I can do it editing wise, because I'm still new to all of that, and my laptop won't let me edit that much footage at once. It just crashes. So welcome to the video. Today is part one of building a council estate shops. So there's going to be shops, a pub, some flats above all of the buildings. I tried to go hyper realistic 1970s council estate style. I'm hoping to rebuild all of Newcrest, but this is the first lot I've done. It's the biggest lot, I believe, on Newcrest, so it took a while. My game was lagging so much towards the end of this. It was just not working. And like in build mode, my laptop never, I play on a laptop. My laptop never lags the game in build mode. It was lagging so badly because there's so much detail. I'm truly so proud of this build. It's one of the, if not the best build I've ever done. It was hyper realistic, which is my favourite style of building in The Sims. There's no CC, so if you've got pretty much probably all the packs, you'll be able to download it. I believe I've already put it on the gallery. If not, by the time this is uploaded, I will have put it on the gallery. And so let's start talking about what you're seeing on the screen. So I'm building the car park first. One of the issues of placing debug cars, other than the fact your Sims don't recognise them as objects and will sometimes just like walk straight through them, is that there are a lot of American style cars. There's a lot of like pickup trucks and things. I've never seen a pickup truck at my local shops. I don't know if you have. So I placed a couple just to have variation of cars, but I just was struggling to find variation of cars that would realistically be at the shops in England. Got distracted by a tree, sorry. So yeah, and now you can see I'm building the first building. There are going to be actually 3 separate buildings in this, 2 with shops and 1 that's the local pub. So yep, and you can see me laying out the footprint of the second one, which was huge. It was just such a big building, and I put that off till like right at the end because I did not want to decorate that big of a space. I didn't know what to do with it. It's the only space I'm not super happy with. Everything else I am just so proud of. I think it turned out so good. So yeah, this video is mostly, the start of this video is mostly just me figuring out the layout, what's going where, and how to put everything together. I suppose that's the same thing as saying the layout, but yeah, how everything was fitting together. I used white fencing to mark out the parking spaces, but I couldn't bring the fencing to the edge of the lot because Sims 4 sucks. So I just used some random debug bits and just placed them there. It doesn't look perfect, but it's the best thing I could find for the job. It's the best thing I could do, and it's not an object from debug that your Sims will pick up, like a plate, so it won't get moved. So it worked out quite well. And then you just saw there, I considered putting a big lorry, like it was delivering something. I thought that would be quite cool, you know, well, not cool, but you know what I mean, quite interesting to have a lorry delivering something to the pub or something. But I didn't end up doing that, but I thought maybe that would be realistic, I don't know. This is my second video I'm recording today, and for some reason I get out of breath from talking too fast in my videos, and so I'm just a bit like, oh, exhausted from talking. So a lot of what I'm doing at the start of this build is just placing random debug stuff into a pile, because once you find it, you've got to place it, you won't ever find it again. So, because if you're familiar with like placing a lot of debug stuff on a lot, it's so stressful and difficult once you found something and it's just called debug and you'll never find it again. So you've got to place a whole bunch. You can't use the eyedropper tool to copy and paste the item. You have to have that item multiple times to place it multiple times, if that makes sense. Also, sorry if the lighting's a bit weird on me. I'm sat on my bed, there's a window to my left, this side, obviously, and the sun is just like going in and out like every 10 seconds, so the lighting is going to be kind of changing. Like I said in my last video, I've got a setup kind of planned out, but my desk is a mess right now. There's like 5 art projects on there, there's a bunch of food wrappers and stuff, and I just don't have the energy to tidy that right now, so we're recording on my bed for today. And you get to see my beautiful bed. Look at this lovely sleigh bed I have. So now you can see I'm just placing all of those debug items, just so many of them, into that big pile. And you can kind of see the shapes of the shops all coming together gradually. And the flats above, you can see where the staircases are going. I love that get to work staircase. Don't understand why it's like the most expensive in the game, but I love it nonetheless. I think it's great for industrial builds and things, you know, things like that, industrial builds and things that are industrial. When I initially built the kind of shell of this, I had a plan for what the layout would be for the apartments above the shops in the bigger building. I end up completely going off that. I end up just making a completely different style, and I'm happy with what I ended up going with. I think it's realistic because all the rooms are these weird, like, pieced together randomness with like tiny windows and like just long skinny rooms, and that's realistic for a 70s council estate, especially flats in a council estate. I don't know what the architects and the like floor planning people were doing in the 70s on council estates, but they should have all been fired. They were terrible at their jobs. I'm just gonna say that. They seem to very much like long skinny rooms with tiny windows. Also, while we were just seeing me put together the council estate pub, I just wanted to say, if you like this avocado toast necklace that I'm wearing today, you might not be able to see it, it might be very small on your screen, but if you like it, you can go and get one from brattybat.com. That's my shop. I have a shop. So now you can see I'm figuring out the outside area for the pub. I wanted to have a little bit of like a climbing frame or something, like a play space for kids, because in my experience most pubs on estates will have a little area for kids to hang out, and I couldn't figure out how to fit it all into the space at first. I think I get there in the end. I think it looks pretty normal and realistic in the end, but it took me a little while to figure out what I was doing with that. I think that's something, because differences in culture between America and England are like a special interest of mine. I'm fascinated by those specific cultural differences in the two countries. And something that I think is really interesting is that America doesn't really seem to have pubs. They have bars and clubs, but they don't have pubs per se. Per se, I sound posh. I've never said per se in my life. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, like, pubs are kind of like, in the UK if you're not familiar, or at least they kind of at least used to be like a social hub for the community. Like, you should go out as an adult in the evening drinking, or you can go out for a meal with your family or for your birthday, and they usually have like play frames and swings and slides for kids to go on. Like, it's not like a bar at all. And I don't know, I feel like, is there an equivalent to that in America, or is that something that you have? If there is, like, let me know. But yeah, like, there's a pub not too far away. Is my laptop on? Nope, she's fine. There's a pub not too far away from where I live, which I used to call the birthday pub, because we always went there on birthdays, and they had a soft play centre inside the pub, like, you know, like soft play with like slides and like indoor play centre with, you know, squishy stuff and slides and colourful in the pub. So like, people getting drunk watching sports, kids playing in a soft play centre in one building. That's what I mean when I say it's kind of like a community space. And I don't know, I feel like, is that something other countries, I think in general Europe sort of has that a lot, but I don't know. Is that something, I might just be talking complete waffle, but I've got to chat about something during this, so is that something you have in America? Is that a thing? So yeah, you can see I'm kind of building out the play area now. I tried putting in more play equipment, like swings and a climbing frame and all sorts of stuff. I could not figure out how to lay it out. Even real life, I don't understand how they choose what tables go where, how they lay that out. That seems stressful to me. That seems very stressful because, like, how does it all fit together? But whenever you go somewhere and the tables are laid out, you're just like, yeah, that works. That's how the tables are. I think I'm probably just very much overthinking everything. Essentially everything. Also, it's suddenly got incredibly sunny. Like, too sunny. It was, like, raining yesterday and now it's sunny. Also, how was everyone's Halloween? It's the 1st of November as I'm recording this, so how was your Halloween? Mine was alright. We didn't get many trick-or-treaters as usual. We probably got like 100 to 150 kids come to our door. We usually get like 200. So it wasn't as busy as usual, I'd say. Probably people are still a bit COVID nervous, which is understandable. Its cases are rising a lot around my area. But yeah, it was a bit quiet compared to usual. So you can see me putting together the pub. I really wanted to use, I think it's the Get Together bar with the like built-in columns and this like sort of stained glass bit at the top, and it looks gorgeous. Very English pub. But I don't know, it just didn't quite work with what I wanted. And I don't think there's a matching countertop to that, if I'm correct. Well, there must have been some reason I chose not to use that. I cannot remember right now. This build took me a long time, so I can't quite remember what my thoughts and thought process was right at the beginning. I really wanted to put an arcade machine in the corner of this build, but in The Sims 3 we had single square arcade machines, which I think is normal, right? In The Sims 4 we have this huge 3 square, it's like a 3x2 one, and that's huge, that's ridiculous, and you can't change the size because the screen doesn't resize, so it had to be huge. A bit annoying. But it's definitely realistic for a pub to have like a, I don't even know what they're called, fruit machine? Yeah, a fruit machine in the corner with like an old man sat on the chair, putting his life savings into it. Quite a depressing imagery. As I'm like, this is a nice community space where people can hang out. And then like, I say that. But realistically, that's what happens in a pub. There's always, you know, like just someone sat at the fruities all night. And so I put one of the bar stools, I alt placed it away from the table, like it had been pulled over to the fruit machine so someone could just sit there all night. Little touches like that are what I just love about the build that I've made. I'm just going to talk about how amazing I am at building right now. But little touches like that are just like my favourite things in realistic builds. Having alt placed chairs at tables and having clutter on the tables like plates and cups and knives and forks. It adds so much realism, and it makes it real. It makes it seem real. I don't know how else to describe it. Realism. This little divider thing from Cats and Dogs, nearly called it Pets. Cats and Dogs. I think that worked so perfectly. It's very pubby. That's not a word. It's very pub-looking. I love the stained glass on it. I think stained glass is just gorgeous in anything. But it definitely goes with this like 70s council estate pub look. I think it looks like this pub has not been renovated since the 70s. Like it's got the old trodden in carpet and like panelled walls. Definitely looks like a 70s council estate in my experience, in my opinion. I wanted to have a double window there where the toilets joined. From the outside it looked a lot better, but then from the inside it didn't work as well as like what I wanted to have. Does that make sense? But I think in the end I figured it out and it looks alright. And quite often I do find that pubs have big windows into the toilets and just a blind over it, and it just goes out to like a pathway or something. So stressful. Why do they do? They always have the window like wide open with a blind over it, and then there's just people outside like drinking. I don't want them to be able to hear me on the toilet. Is that just me? Like, why do pubs always do that? So, I mean, in that sense, it's kind of realistic that there's a big window going straight into one of the toilet cubicles. Also, there, you just saw I was super cluttering up one of the tables. Like, a group of people had just gone out and had an absolute bender in this pub. Covered the table in cans, and I don't know why they'd be having cans in a pub. Do people have cans in a pub? I don't drink beer. Anyway, bottles and glasses and stuff all over the table. definitely adds to the realism, adds a little bit of storytelling, you know, like this table was used for these people, they went out, they had a bender. You know, I like that element of storytelling to it, that it's just a small bit of detail, but it tells a little story, a little personality in it, you know? And I like that. I think a lot of sim stuff, especially specifically EA builds, lack any kind of personality in terms of like storytelling, and I get that they have to have a minimal amount of objects on their builds because it has to be able to run on like any device. And I totally get that. But at the same time, like a little bit, like a few objects, surely they could add like a few things. Just not like as, like sometimes they'll do these things where it's like a major piece of like personality for the character. Like, I can't think of an example. Like with the plane crash, there's a guy living in like a plane crash in Strangerville. And like that storytelling and everything, like why does he live in this plane crash? What's going on there? But I just mean small like details, like that's more like realistic and interesting to me. Just these tiny little bits of storytelling and details. Anyway, that was such a tangent. I'm now working on building the kitchen and the dine out kitchen stuff to make this functional, because this is technically functional as or almost. It just needs a couple of extra items, I'm pretty sure, but it's technically near enough functional as a restaurant, so you could use this lot as a restaurant. But the dine out kitchen stuff you have to place for it to be functional, just like, they don't fit together. I don't like it. I've never been a big fan of that. They don't like, you have to have the 2 kitchen pieces, because I think you have to have 2 chefs. I don't know, I can't remember. No one ever plays with dine out. If you're familiar with that pack, no one ever plays with dine out. It's so glitchy, it never works. But so yeah, the 2 kitchen pieces don't slot nicely together, and so you always have to have these like awkward shaped kitchens with this mismatched counters, and I just hate it. It's just annoying. But I wanted to have the serving hatch through to the bar, so I had to use dine out. And now I'm just adding some details. I think pubs tend to have a lot of clutter on the walls. My god, the sun is blinding me. Yeah, pubs tend to have a lot of clutter on the walls. They often have like gold, bronze, like horseshoes. Does anyone know what I mean? Like horseshoes hanging on leather belts. I don't know if there's a word for what that is, but I don't know what that is as a thing, but pubs always have those. So I put in a few goldy bronzy knickknacks on the wall. If I find a picture, I will try and insert a picture of what I'm on about, because if you've got no idea, it will sound ridiculous. But I promise this is a thing. It's definitely a thing. Anyway, adding more clutter into the build, into the kitchen, and then the rest of the build, obviously. And you know when you're doing a speed build and you don't know what to say? That's me now, haha. I added a couple of awards because I thought maybe they want some local awards for like being a pub. Like, good pub, here's an award. Have I gone insane? Am I just talking random words? Like, feels like it. So this table I really cluttered up with plates and knives and forks, and I wanted it to look like they'd been out for a family meal. Because obviously this pub has a little kitchen so they can serve meals. And I think that looks, again, little details of storytelling, you know, I love that. I think it's realistic for some of the tables to not have been cleaned down yet. So, like, you don't want it to be that your Sims come into a build and it looks like no Sim has ever been there before. You want it to be realistic. And I don't know if those plates and cups and things will get cleaned away as soon as you start building and playing in this lot. I don't know if Sims will come in and try and tidy up. But hopefully not, because I spent a long time placing them. And now we're moving on to the first flat of the build. So this is the flat or apartment if you're American. I don't know what other places call it that. So I'm just figuring out the layout, the floor plan. The door comes in at a fairly awkward place for the shape of this build. But I figured it out, it kind of works, and again, like I said earlier, it's very fitting for a 70s council estate to have the most ridiculous floor plan the most like non-functional floor plan. So in that sense, it kind of is realistic. So, oh, why are we outside now? There we go, we're just copying the windows. I'm like trying to narrate this, but I cannot remember building this. Like, I remember it, but I don't remember, you know, like my thought process and the specific details of what I was doing, because it took so long. It took so long to build. So I don't remember my exact thought process. But this build, it has the parents, and then in my mind, 2 girls and a teenage boy living in this flat. And going with the theme of like realism, I really tried to clutter up this room as much as possible. I had a little rug, little desk, bunk bed, because obviously we have bunk beds now. In my mind, those are still very new. It's been like months now, but in my mind, those are still like, wow, we have bunk beds. That's crazy. That's a whole new thing. And I love this little like TV setup. I struggled to figure out how to fit it in, but I love those chairs. I don't remember what they're from, if they're base game or not, but obsessed with them. I put them in a lot of kids' rooms because I think they're just so cute. I don't know why I've not cut this out of the speed build. My game was glitching. Has anyone had that glitch? Where it just shoots you over to a corner of like, as far into the corner of the world you're playing in as possible. And if you try and move away, it just gradually drags you back. And so it's impossible to play or build because it just focuses on one corner. Has anyone else had that? I think to fix it, I just press all 4 arrow keys for like 60 seconds. But then when it keeps on happening really often, you don't want to be spending a whole minute pressing the arrow keys. And then if you let go too soon, you have to start again. It's a whole thing. But there we go, back into the build now. Yeah, my Sims game has been very glitchy recently. And no, it's not because of mods, because at this point I wasn't playing with a single mod installed. I recently started using MC Command Center. I'm not familiar with mods, honestly, like, I've never really played with mods that much. I've used, like the base mental drugs mod once. And I was like, it's fun to play with, but I don't know, I like playing just the game as you get given it and working with what you've got. Not that I sound so judgy, like I'm judging people for using mods. Like, play the game whatever way makes you happy. I'm just saying what way makes me happy. Anyway, here is the kitchen. These counters. Everyone always hates them, and I hate them too, they're ugly. But these counters are the most council estate house vibes ever. Like, ever. They look like the counters you get in a council estate, in a council house. And I think I use them quite a bit in my build because they're realistic. They're what would be in this build. And then I'm figuring out what sofa to place. I didn't necessarily have a colour scheme figured out for this because, again, realism, like a lot of people don't have a colour scheme to their house or to their flat. They just have the stuff they own in their flat, like, they just have stuff. And so I didn't necessarily have a full, like, solid colour scheme for all of these because I don't think that's realistic. And then I put in this dining table, those dining chairs. Those are my favourites. I'm pretty certain they're from Cats and Dogs. I use them in pretty much every build I ever make. They are my favourite dining chairs. I think probably just because they look like the ones we have in my house. And so in my mind, that's what dining chairs look like because that's all we have in my house. But yeah, they're my favourites. I love those dining chairs. Then moving on to the bathroom, which is quite a generous size for this space, but it is what fitted into the gap, you know, it's what fitted into the space. But that does mean I got to fit a bathtub in there, which is nice, and especially for family gameplay. Not that there's a toddler bed in here, but in theory the kids would have been toddlers at some point. You need a bathtub for toddlers. In theory, you know, it adds up, it makes sense. And then we move on to the parents' room. I need to get a drink. I'm back. I've just realised I have nowhere to put this down. There we go. I love what I did with this little dressing room in the parents' bedroom. However, I've just realised I did put 2 of those little dresser wardrobe things in this build. When I go to tour it at the end, there's only 1. I thought something had been deleted. Weird. Yeah, this whole build just, I don't know if it's because there's too much detail, too many objects on the lot or something, but it was being so glitchy. Things were disappearing. It was all just being very odd. Now we move on to the teenage son's bedroom. And now in my mind, he's like miserable teenage son, like he's, you know, like a bit of a stereotype gamer boy, spends all his time in his room, shouts at his mom, like bit too much down the stereotype route. But I designed the entire room around that, and I put those little guys on that shelf. Those are meant to be like pop vinyls, and there is a figure there in the video, it's right there, that looks like a pop vinyl, but so I use that as well. But I also use those little round ones. I think they're cute. I think they're just so fun, and they place automatically onto shelves, which makes my life easier placing them. So I put a whole bunch of posters in their room and a 3-monitor setup. Oof. So that's pretty much that flat done. I think I come back to it at the end and do a few tiny tweaks, if I can remember correctly. I think I might add a washing machine into the parents' bedroom. If I don't do that, then wow, I just imagined that and made that up on the spot for some reason. But I'm pretty sure I do that at some point. And so now we're moving on to one of the shops. So, any takers, any guesses for what this building's going to be? I mean, there's no point guessing because you're about to find out anyway. Is the video frozen, or did I just mess up the editing? Oh. Okay, joke's on me. I said you're about to find out, you're not. This is the end of part 1. Right, so 1, the sun is blinding me again, and 2, that is actually going to have to be the end of the video. Sorry, it got cut kind of short. I tried to add another clip of screen recording of me building to the video. My laptop would not let it, just wouldn't handle adding another clip into the video. It's just too much footage for it. So stay tuned for part 2 and part 3 and part 4, because until I can figure out something better, a better way for me to cut down long videos, that's how this is going to be. But also I doubt I'll have many 25-hour long builds in the future, so I think usually I will manage to keep everything in one part. But that's it for today. Hope you liked the video. It would be awesome if you liked this video, if you would go and subscribe. That would be really cool. And if you wanted to comment something nice, that would be amazing. Maybe tell me how much you love the avocado necklace I'm wearing, and how much you wish you could get one from brightybart.com. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Hope you like the build. Hope you like waiting to see part 2 of the build. Bye! P.S. This build is already on the gallery, so if you just want to like go and see the finished result and download it now, you totally can.